Have you ever picked a country because it looked cheap, only to get there and watch your money disappear? In the 2026 budget, destination doesn't always mean a cheap trip. Hotels, meals, transportation, entrance fees, and those small daily expenses can turn a supposedly affordable vacation into an expensive one fast. But $40 to $70 a day can still take you surprisingly far in some parts of the world. I compared the real everyday costs across dozens of destinations, including accommodation, food, transport, and attractions, and found 8 countries where that budget still gives you plenty of freedom. And one of them surprised me most of all, not because it was cheap, but because of just how much you can actually get for your money. Let's break it down. Number 8. Albania. Albania has reached an interesting point in its travel story. The country is no longer an unknown corner of Europe, but it hasn't completely lost the affordability that made adventurous travelers notice it in the first place. Tirana gives you a good starting point, with private rooms often available around $30 to $50 a night, local breakfasts for roughly $3 to $5, and filling lunches around $5 to $8. Add inexpensive local transportation and a few coffees, and around $50 to $70 a day can provide a comfortable trip without chasing the absolute cheapest option. Then, the scenery changes dramatically. Berat's white hillside houses create a different atmosphere from Tirana, while Gjirokastër brings stone rooftops, narrow streets, and centuries of history. Continue south, and the Adriatic and Ionian coastlines begin appearing between rugged mountains. And this is where Albania might just surprise you, because a trip that feels luxurious doesn't have to cost nearly as much as you'd expect. The biggest problem is timing. During July and August, popular coastal towns can become crowded, and hotel prices rise quickly. A destination that feels like an incredible bargain in May can feel considerably less impressive in the middle of peak summer. September is appealing, with warm water, fewer crowds, and more reasonable accommodation. Roads outside the main cities can also be slower than expected, so rushing across the country isn't ideal. Albania works best when the itinerary leaves room to wander. A long lunch, a quiet hillside town, or an afternoon beside the sea can become more memorable than another attraction checked off a list. For travelers wanting European architecture, mountains, beaches, and excellent food without Western European prices, Albania remains a remarkable place to begin. Number 7. Romania. Romania doesn't announce itself as a budget destination, and that may actually be part of its appeal. There is no shortage of historic European cities where a simple hotel room can cost $150 or more, but Romania still offers comfortable accommodation for roughly $30 to $50 a night in many destinations. A local restaurant meal can often fall around $6 to $12. Coffee may cost only a few dollars, and transportation between major cities remains relatively affordable. A sensible daily budget comes to approximately $40 to $60, depending on accommodation and how frequently you move between destinations. Brasov is one of the places that makes the numbers surprising. The historic center is surrounded by colorful buildings, old churches, cafes, and the Carpathian Mountains rising immediately beyond the city. Sibiu offers another atmosphere, with elegant squares and historic architecture, while Sigishwara feels almost like stepping into a medieval story. The train network adds another dimension because some journeys take you directly through the landscapes that make the country worth visiting. There are drawbacks. Certain trains and roads feel dated, rural transportation requires patience, and winter can be harsh. But Romania doesn't need perfect infrastructure to be interesting. Travelers love Romania because it hasn't been polished into a completely predictable tourist experience. You can eat traditional food in a small restaurant, walk through a historic center after sunset, and wake up the next morning surrounded by mountains without spending a fortune. For travelers who want the feel of Europe without paying the usual European prices, Romania packs an impressive mix of history, scenery, and culture into one surprisingly affordable destination. Number 6. Montenegro. Montenegro is small enough that a vacation here can change character before lunch. Start the morning in Kotor, where the old stone walls sit beneath a mountain that seems almost too close to the town. Walk a few streets away from the waterfront, and the mood changes again. Cafes fill the little squares, laundry hangs from old buildings, and locals go about their day while visitors squeeze through the same narrow lanes looking for photographs. A coffee might cost only a couple of euros, A local lunch can be around $7 to $12, and a comfortable room away from the most expensive waterfront addresses can often be found for roughly $30 to $50. With a daily budget of around $45 to $65, you can enjoy the trip comfortably, spending on memorable experiences without having to scrutinize every expense. Then there's the part that changes the calculation entirely: Montenegro's mountains. Drive away from the coast, and the Mediterranean atmosphere disappears surprisingly quickly. The road climbs toward places such as Jablonjak and Durmitor, where the landscape becomes forests, cliffs, canyons, and glacial lakes. It almost feels wrong that both versions fit inside such a small country. Summer demands a closer look at your budget. Kotor and Budva fill up quickly, especially when cruise ships dock, and waterfront rooms can push costs higher than they're worth. September offers a refreshing change. The sea stays warm, the crowds thin out, and the country feels less like a busy resort and more like a place where everyday life unfolds. Sun-soaked coastlines meet rugged mountain landscapes, giving Montenegro a character that no single image can capture. Number 5. Poland. Poland can challenge your expectations almost immediately. You arrive in Krakow expecting an affordable European city, then step into the old town and realize you're looking at the kind of architecture that usually comes with a much higher price tag. The difference shows up when the bill arrives. A comfortable hotel room in Krakow can often land around $35 to $55 a night, while a proper Polish meal can cost roughly $7 to $12. A plate of pierogi, a bowl of żurek, or a filling breakfast from a local bakery doesn't require the kind of spending you'd expect in Paris, Amsterdam, or Copenhagen. For a relaxed trip, around $45 to $65 a day can cover a private room, meals, transportation, and several attractions. Krakow is only the beginning. Warsaw offers a striking contrast, with a modern skyline surrounding a historic center that Poland rebuilt almost entirely after World War II. Wrocław brings colorful buildings, bridges, riverside cafes, and those tiny bronze dwarf statues scattered throughout the city. Gdańsk feels different again, with its ornate waterfront and Baltic atmosphere. Food keeps the daily costs under control too. Pierogi, potato pancakes, soups, sausages, fresh bread, and inexpensive bakery breakfasts make it easy to eat well without turning every meal into a major expense. Winter is the main consideration. Temperatures can drop hard, daylight disappears early, and some travelers may find the season difficult. Summer brings better weather but also higher prices in popular cities. For someone who wants to see several sides of Poland, the interesting part is how quickly the scenery changes once the train leaves Krakow. A few hours later, the train leaves the medieval rooftops behind, crosses the open landscape, and carries you toward another Polish city. Number 4. Bolivia. Bolivia has some of the strangest landscapes on Earth, and the real surprise comes when you see how little it can cost to experience them. Salar de Uyuni is the obvious example. The salt flat stretches so far toward the horizon that the landscape seems to erase every sense of distance. After rain, a thin layer of water can transform the surface into an enormous mirror, making the sky appear beneath your feet. Yet, ordinary travel in Bolivia can remain around $30 to $45 a day. Basic hotels and guest houses may cost approximately $15 to $30, while local meals often fall between $3 and $7. The major expense comes with reaching the remote landscapes and organized multi-day tours around Uyuni. That's one area where spending extra is worthwhile because the most impressive locations simply aren't accessible through ordinary city transportation. La Paz introduces another unforgettable side of Bolivia. The city climbs dramatically through the Andes, and cable cars connect neighborhoods while providing extraordinary views across the mountainsides. Sucre feels different, with white colonial buildings, quiet plazas, and a slower rhythm. Then there is Lake Titicaca, sitting high in the Andes and stretching toward the horizon. Bolivia isn't without challenges. La Paz sits around 3,600 meters above sea level, and altitude can make the first couple of days surprisingly exhausting. Long-distance transportation can also take much longer than expected, particularly when roads wind through mountainous terrain. That's why an aggressive itinerary doesn't work well here. Give the body time to adjust and leave gaps between destinations. The reward is enormous. Few countries allow a relatively modest travel budget to reach landscapes this dramatic, cities this unusual, and natural environments that look almost unreal. Number 3. Thailand. Thailand remains one of the strongest examples of how a country can offer both extremely cheap travel and surprisingly comfortable travel without forcing visitors into one style. A budget traveler can spend roughly $25 to $40 a day, but around $50 to $70 creates much more breathing room. Private rooms can often be found for $20 to $35, street food for $2 to $5, and meals at local restaurants for under $10. Bangkok alone can provide days of entertainment through temples, markets, river journeys, street food, shopping districts, and neighborhood restaurants without requiring expensive attractions at every stop. Then Chiang Mai changes the atmosphere entirely. Mountains surround the city, temples sit among quiet streets, and evenings become slower around the night markets. Southern Thailand introduces the beaches, but this is where the budget needs more attention. Famous islands can become surprisingly expensive during peak season, with accommodation, ferries, excursions, and restaurants quickly increasing the total cost. Choosing quieter coastal destinations or traveling outside peak periods can significantly reduce your expenses. Thailand's transportation network also makes longer trips practical. Trains, buses, ferries, and inexpensive domestic flights provide different options depending on how much time and money are available. Another advantage is the ability to mix spending levels naturally. One day can involve a $3 breakfast, a simple guest house, and inexpensive sightseeing. The next can include a better hotel and a memorable boat trip without destroying the entire budget. That flexibility is important because affordable travel shouldn't feel like punishment. Thailand gives travelers the ability to decide where comfort matters and where saving money makes sense. The country remains popular for a reason. The combination of food, infrastructure, beaches, cities, culture, and price is extremely difficult to match. Number 2, Georgia. Georgia is the kind of place that becomes more impressive the longer you research it. Tbilisi immediately stands out, but the real surprise begins once the city disappears behind you. In the capital, private rooms can often cost around $25 to $45, a substantial restaurant meal around $7 to $12, and a comfortable daily budget can sit near $35 to $55. That already makes the country attractive, but the food makes the value even harder to ignore. King Kali, khachapuri, grilled meats, fresh bread, salads, and Georgian wine can turn dinner into an event without requiring a European capital-sized budget. Tbilisi itself combines old neighborhoods, wooden balconies, narrow streets, churches, sulfur baths, modern cafes, and restaurants in a relatively compact area. Then the landscape changes completely. Roads lead toward the Caucasus Mountains, where enormous peaks surround small settlements and valleys. Kakheti provides vineyards and traditional villages, offering yet another side of the country. Georgia isn't perfectly convenient. Rural transportation can be unpredictable. Mountain roads can take longer than expected, and weather can interfere with plans. But the imperfections provide the journey some character. A roadside stop can become an unexpected highlight. A long lunch can stretch into an entire afternoon. A small guest house can offer a more personal experience than a polished international hotel ever could. The country also has an unusually deep food and wine culture for its size, which means a significant part of the travel experience remains affordable even when the scenery looks anything but inexpensive. Georgia rewards travelers who don't need every part of a trip to follow a strict plan. Leave some space in your itinerary, and you'll often discover something unexpected along the way. Number 1. Vietnam. Vietnam earns the top position because the affordability doesn't disappear after leaving one particular city or tourist area. It follows you across the country. Budget travelers can get by around $20 to $30 a day, while a more comfortable trip can realistically run $40 to $60. A basic private room may cost $10 to $20, street food can be only a few dollars, coffee around $1 to $3, and local transportation remains inexpensive. That creates something far more valuable than a cheap hotel: freedom. Hanoi immediately shows why. The old quarter is loud, crowded, chaotic, and strangely addictive, with tiny cafes, food stalls, historic buildings, and thousands of scooters moving through the streets. Then Ninh Binh changes the scenery completely. Limestone mountains rise above rivers and rice fields, creating landscapes that look almost too perfect to be real. Hoi An slows everything down with lantern-lit streets, old architecture, riverside restaurants, and evening walks. Farther south, Ho Chi Minh City brings another burst of energy, with enormous markets, modern cafes, museums, nightlife, and a different rhythm from Hanoi. Transportation between these places gives travelers plenty of options, from trains and buses to inexpensive domestic flights when time matters more. Vietnam also makes it easier to stretch your trip without stretching your budget. A budget that might cover 1 week somewhere expensive can stretch much further here. You can stay for 2 or even 3 weeks without worrying about the cost of every meal. That extra time changes the entire experience. There is room to wander, take a slower train, stay another night, return to a favorite restaurant, or simply sit in a cafe and watch the city move around you. Vietnam isn't number one because every single thing costs the least. It's number one because a modest budget can buy an unusually complete travel experience and still leave enough room to actually enjoy it. That's it for today. I hope this gave you a few new places to put on your travel list, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more affordable places to travel and live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.